Today on the podcast, I'm joined by Chanty Macias from shantymacias.com. Chanty is an early childhood educator as well as a mom herself, and she has so many years of experience in early childhood education classrooms all the way up through third grade. In fact, Chanty was just teaching kindergarten this past school year, and she's now stepping away from the classroom to work on her business full time. Chanty supports preschool parents and teachers to make sure that preschoolers are ready for the challenges that they are going to face in kindergarten. Chanty has a very active Instagram account at shanty.macias, as well as her own podcast called Preschool Made Easy, where she offers actionable tips and strategies for preschool parents and teachers. Listen in as Chanty and I discuss her journey to become a teacher and all of the different paths that took. We also discuss how parents can prepare their kids for kindergarten, making sure that they are setting up an ideal environment at home if they want to work with their child at home, as well as some of the areas that they're going to want to focus on to make sure that their child is ready for kindergarten. If you have any questions about this episode, please reach out to me. I'm on Instagram at Little Stuff Learning Blog, or you can reach out to Chanty. She's on Instagram at shanty.macias. Hey, Chanty, welcome to the Little Stuff Learning Podcast.
Hey, Erin, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited. We've had this on our calendar for a while. We're a little new.
But it is so worth the wait. This is going to be such a fun conversation because you and I connected how long ago on Instagram? Maybe like 5 years ago?
Probably 5 or 6 years ago. Yeah, I think when we both got started. Yeah.
That's so crazy to think about. And then, of course, you were just a speaker at the Learn and Play to K Kindergarten Readiness Virtual Conference, which was awesome.
Yes, that was super exciting. I love getting to meet everybody and listening to everybody's sessions. It was just a huge hit for parents everywhere. So it was really exciting.
That was a really fun event. And so now we are here to talk more about you. So let's get started with talking about your journey to becoming a teacher and kind of what that looked like for you.
Yeah, so I probably followed the same path as a ton of other teachers, right? I think from the time I was about 3, I always said I wanted to be a teacher. So it was getting all of my stuffed animals together and teaching them in my room. Because I had 4 older siblings that were just doing their own thing, and I was on my own teaching all my friends. And then in high school, we actually had an early childhood program. So I joined that, and throughout all 4 years of high school, we were taught the ways of teaching, specifically with the early childhood track. So it was daycare, preschool, and early elementary. And the last 2 years, we actually got to go on our internships to elementary schools and to daycares and kind of shadow the teachers and see, get a feel for what the ropes really entail in this job. I then enrolled in college. I got my bachelor's in early childhood education. And then I got a teaching job. It was quite instant, which was really nice. But since I was 13, all those years leading into college, I was working in the classroom. So I'm 35 now, and I can say I have 22 years of experience, which sounds nuts because then people look at me and it's like, no, you don't look like it. But it's just a culmination of all of the experience. It's the only job I've ever had. It's the most rewarding one. Just being able to help children. I've done tutoring. I've worked in daycares. I've worked in preschools. I've taught all the way up to third grade. And so after I got my degree, like I said, I got a teaching job, teaching kindergarten, which was a dream come true at a phenomenal school. I had the best principal, the greatest team. I felt very blessed that year. And I immediately started working on my master's. So I didn't really stop. It was about 7 years of straight full-time school, full-time working, and I wouldn't have done it any other way. So I got my master's 2 years later in curriculum instruction and technology, which is super cool. I felt like a cool girl that knew how to do web design and pages and all kinds of really cool techie things. And then I thought, man, it'd be really neat to do something with this technology background and education. So I created a classroom website a couple years later, and that's how I started sharing all the happenings, right, in my classroom and field trips and events and things with my classroom parents, and they loved it. So I taught for about 5 years before going on maternity leave. My husband and I, we got pregnant because it's not just I getting pregnant, it's both of us together. So we did, and then I went on mat leave, and what was supposed to be 6 months of staying home with my daughter turned into 1 year, and then 2 years, and then we just kept adding until it turned into 5 years being at home with her, and I loved every minute. So, and then when she started school, I was kind of recruited to go back into teaching. They told me, listen, we have a kinder position open and it's right next door to baby girl's class. And I couldn't say no. So I went back into the class and I taught kinder again. And then we recently moved cities. We moved from Miami to Orlando. And I have family here. So we ended up all in the same school. It's a big family affair. And I taught for a couple more years. And then this year I left again. It's just kind of like a back and forth, but everybody finds their own way. And now I'm just working on my business full time, which is preschool curriculum, and getting that into the hands of teachers and parents everywhere so we can keep growing our community.
I love that journey so much. And like you said, there's so many twists and turns and ups and downs, and it's not just one straight line. But
Yeah.
what stayed the same throughout all of that is your passion for education and your passion for helping these young learners and supporting their families. I'm sure that your parents in your class were so thankful to have you and that support.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I was really lucky. I was very fortunate to have. I always said every year it was so strange, and I would tell them, please don't talk to previous parents because every year I said, God, you guys are the best, and you guys are the best.
That is awesome. Now, what would you say is your favorite part about teaching in the classroom and maybe the most challenging part about teaching in the classroom?
I would say my favorite thing is the regular everyday moments when they say something funny or they laugh just because. Like I used to think it had to be this grand thing and that you see a child progressing in their test scores and then that gives you a sense of purpose. And with so many years in this industry, I realized that it's just the regular moments when they walk up to you and say, look at what I drew. And you say, oh, is that a house? And they say, no, it's a bug. Oh, wow, that's great. And then they laugh and you laugh and it's fun, making those relationships and you have friends. They're just little. So it's nice to have little friends who you can play with and you can understand and you can tell jokes to and sometimes they get it, sometimes they don't, but at least it's still fun. I think if you have fun doing the job, you're in the right place. It'll never be a job for you. And
Absolutely.
I'd say the most challenging part is behavior issues when you don't get the support that you need as an educator or the resources to help that child. I think that's something that I personally struggled with a lot this year. And it was something that unfortunately took a toll on my well-being. And it did impact my decision into leaving. But honestly, I think that's just kind of something that all teachers struggle with. There's no class that's perfect. And hey, if you got it, then yay. I know something they may exist, but it's very difficult when you can only do so much to help a child and the lack of parental involvement is there or the lack of support from administration. That's something that's a very real problem nowadays that it's kind of like everybody's hands are tied or people are afraid to say or do something and then nothing changes. So it's very difficult being an adult in that situation where the child's not getting help. You feel responsible for that. And it kind of lands on you and your shoulders. And it's very difficult to undo, like, get rid of that feeling, that burden, like it has to be up to you to make a change.
Absolutely. And teachers have so much on their plates and
Mhm.
trying to balance it all. And I would think, especially in a kindergarten classroom, sometimes I feel like the support from the school in terms of getting kids tested or getting them resources, it's not always top of mind for admin with kindergarten because of the idea of let's wait and see. It's just the beginning of the year. They'll be fine. They'll catch up. And we, as kindergarten teachers, know that that's not true. So sometimes it is that battle of trying to get them the support they need earlier because they feel like kindergarten is sometimes at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to that support and intervention.
Right, of course. And they always think, well, there's more time. Well, they're going to get older. We'll just kind of deal with it later. But then what happens when you're a mother or a father and you have to come home and have, be that role in your with your family, and you're just defeated, you're just overwhelmed, you're stressed. It's not like we come home and we just forget about these children, they're part of our lives, and we want to help them. And it's just, that's where it gets a little bit difficult, when you still have to play the role and be this happy, strong, go-to person that's holding down the fort in your home with your kids and your family, and you're being affected by other people's children's realistically. I mean,
Right.
that's where it's kind of tricky, and it's hard to balance.
Absolutely. And now you're transitioning out of the classroom again and working full time on your business. And like you mentioned, you really focus on preschool curriculum and supporting preschool parents. So,
Yes.
my first question to you, because a lot of the listeners are preschool parents, is if a parent is looking to put their child into a preschool, what sort of tips or advice do you have for them? Maybe what they could look for or what they could ask on their preschool tours to make sure that they find the best fit for their child?
Yeah, I would say I have two things for this one. I think the first one would be to ask questions, ask all the questions. So often parents feel like they're being annoying. You are not annoying. This is your goal. This is what, I mean, your children are counting on you to get them something that's going to help them thrive. So ask all the questions regarding their routines, their schedule, things like building social skills. How are you going to help me with building their independence? What should I do at home? How can we work together as a partnership? That's really what it is, as a team, to make sure that my child, who is going to be with you probably more hours in the day than they will be with me, how are we going to work together to make sure that they are thriving and that they are well? How do you handle conflict resolution, right? Because there are going to be times when things get tough or there are issues. I need to know as a parent how that's going to be handled at a school. Parental involvement, things like that, right? So I would say the next part of that is trust your gut and your intuition. So many times we think we're making the right decision based on what other people are advising us to do, or on the blogs that we've read or on social media. And it's kind of ironically, that's where we stand right now, because this is part of our job, right? We have been there both as parents and educators. So we can now help people. But at the same time, you've got to trust your gut, right? If you're a parent, you've already gone through this so many times before since they were newborns. Making decisions is tough. You're going to feel like you're making a mistake sometimes. And I think as long as you are getting informed and making well thought out decisions, it's going to be fine, right? Like, give yourself all the grace, but be prepared. Go in there, ask all the questions, do your tours, because it is very important to get a visual, and actually see them in action, right? I don't want to walk into a place where everything is so particularly structured and perfection, because then it makes me wonder what is going on here that I'm not seeing. I want to see children arguing and seeing the teacher kind of, either get involved and help them with their issues, or not get involved and kind of giving them a chance to fix the problems on their own, right? Like, I want to see what the approaches are going to be when there is real life happening around them.
That is such good advice. Ask all the questions and trust your gut. We always say parents know their kids best. And with
Yes.
preschool, there's so many options. Are you going to send them 5 full days, 3 half days, 2 full days? I mean, there's just so many different ways you can structure preschool. So no matter what your neighbor is doing, or no matter what you see on social media, you know what is best for your child. And with my kids, it was different. With my oldest, she did 2 years of preschool. Her first year was just 2 half days, and then her second year was 3 half days. And then with my son, he only did it for 1 year because we were coming out of the pandemic, and I did a little bit of homeschool preschool with him for a year. And then for his pre-K year, he was there 5 full days. So he just jumped right into 5 full days. So it really does depend on your child. So there's not one perfect answer for the preschool that you want to put your child in. You need to make sure that it's best for you and your family and your schedule, and not based on anybody else's opinion.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree.
Now, what about for parents who want to homeschool for preschool? I know I did that for 1 year with my son, which I absolutely loved. And you really are the go to expert for that. When parents want to homeschool for preschool, you are the one that they can go to figure out how to set up those routines, the structure, the supplies, all of those. So let's hear all those tips for anybody who is interested in homeschooling for this preschool year.
Yeah. So, first of all, thank you for your kind words. You're so sweet. It
It's
was
all
so
true. It's all true.
love you. It was so much fun. I think so. We were also what we call pandemic babies, right? Because my daughter is 7 now; she's turning 8. And it was kind of like oh, what do we do now? I kid you not. The day I found a program that was close to us, and we thought, oh, yay, let's get her a head start. Because obviously, teacher mom, right? I'm super picky as to where she goes and what she is taught. That is my beige flag. I recognize it. Um, so it is what it is. But we found a program that was close by, and it was a pre-K 3-4 combined that was going to help her be in the same room for 2 years. They were going to adapt the curriculum, obviously, for when she was a little bit older, and then prepare her for kindergarten in the same school. That is kind of unheard of because typically schools just either start at pre-K or it's a daycare, right? So you kind of have to pick and choose. And I found it, I loved it. I went and toured it, asked all the questions. Great, got a really good vibe from the place. I enrolled her. The day she was supposed to start was the first day of COVID. Everything is shut down.
Oh
I
my
said,
gosh. Oh my gosh.
universe, I am not gonna force it. So, um, we changed plans, right? We were already doing homeschool preschool, so we kind of just took a turn and just kept going with what we were doing. And it was great. It worked out really well. So I would say to parents who are homeschooling, preschooling, first of all, you are awesome. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of patience, and just a lot of self-awareness, like knowing what's best for your family to make a decision to do that. So way to go. I would also say try different things, right? Like and see what works best for you. Don't be afraid to be flexible and know that there are going to be seasons of life when you're forced to make changes, and that's okay. You cannot possibly have the same routine or the same schedule every single day for the entire year. Probably not even 6 months. Like you're lucky if you get 2 months out of it. And that's realistic, right? But I think as long as you're able to make changes and stay flexible, you're going to just do the best that you can. You're going to give yourself all the grace. As long as you and your child are, thriving together, you are well, your child is well, they're being taught all the things that you deem are important for them to learn. I think it's going to be great. It's going to be a great experience. Just like I said, be flexible. Don't be afraid to make any changes. And as far as creating the space, I think creating a comfortable space that is obviously well lit, not too loud, right? Kind of quiet, no distractions. That's going to be your go-to. And just making sure that it doesn't get overcrowded or become overstimulating for you or your child. I think that's something that is very important when creating your ideal environment and your routines. So yeah, I'm sorry, you had also asked me about.
I would love for you to talk about, well, I've heard you talk about time blocking before and also the difference between a schedule and a routine and how you approach that.
Oh, yes, I love this. Okay, good. So time blocking is like my new best friend. She is so gracious. She teaches us all the ways that we are wonderful and we can make all the things happen. So time blocking is when you designate a certain time in your day to just getting a task done. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be like from 9 to 10, I'm going to tidy up the living room. And then from 10 to 11, I'm going to go ahead and teach my child. 11 to 12, we're going to have lunch. Like sometimes that's not going to work, right? There are family emergencies, especially if you're home. People tend to think that we do nothing. And then they'll call you and it's like, hey, I need you to come and pick up a spare tire for me. What? It happens. So we either need to be ready to roll with the punches or not. But we need to be flexible with our schedules, right? So when you time block, it really helps just give you an idea of where you're going to be focusing your time. Now, like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be a strict time, like hour to hour. It could just be a chunk of your day, right? Let's say my morning work time gets done first. As soon as I finish that, then I'm off to teach my child. As soon as we finish that time, however long it may be, we'll carve out some time for lunch and so on and so forth. So that's where routines come into play, because so often parents think that we need to have a schedule for homeschool preschool. And I will go against all the rules gladly and say, you really do not need that. Based from experience, I think that a routine is so much better to have than a schedule, because routines are so much more flexible. They instill flexibility in your child. Then it's okay for them to know that things are going to change. Okay. We don't want them to get flustered or become anxious or overstimulated when we say, sorry, baby, we got to pack up our stuff and we got to go get daddy at the airport now because he's home from a work trip. And then they're kind of like, oh, but wait, but my playtime comes now. What do I do if I can't get my playtime in? And then that's where the anxieties start coming in and the overwhelm. And we want to avoid that as much as possible. So when we have a routine in place, as opposed to a schedule, it's really so much more chill and relaxed. And also routines are engagement based, not time based. So if you're doing a really fun science experiment, like my daughter loves science, and they're just going with it. They're asking you all the questions. They want to read books about it. They want to watch a YouTube video. They want to dance with it. Oh, the floor is lava. Go with it, right? Continue that momentum. Don't just stop the lesson because homeschool preschool time is only 30 minutes and time is up. Sorry, kid. We're going to have to move on to art time now. Just roll with it. I'd say, yeah, time blocking and making sure that you instill a routine versus a schedule is probably going to be your best friend too.
Totally agree. And that is what I did with my son when we did homeschool preschool. It was very much that routine, but not based on time. So we would drop big sister off at school and go for a walk. And sometimes that walk was an hour. And sometimes if it was hot, it was only 20 minutes. And we'd come home and have a snack and then do our routine of actually doing academics. And then it was time for lunch. Like we just had this really nice flow, but it wasn't tied to a time. And like you said, it was engagement based. So when there were some lessons he was super into, we would keep going. And then there were some that were, flops. So we all have those where he was just not into them. And we moved on more quickly after that. And so I think that routine and that idea that it doesn't have to be the same every day is so important. We are taking our child's interests and their cues into account when we're going about our day.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I
Now,
love that.
let's talk about how we actually figure out what should we be teaching them in homeschool preschool. So if we want to be homeschooling and we know that we want to have this great routine, what are we actually teaching them during that time? I know that you have a great way for parents to figure that out.
Yeah. So I think when it came time to preparing her for kinder, I kind of gave myself some time and I just sat down at my desk and I started thinking and brainstorming, okay, how can I combine everything, all of my expertise and experience, because around that time I already had, 10, 15 years in different classroom environments. So I had the experience from the educator's perspective. Now I had a couple of years from the mom perspective. How can I combine that and figure out what to best teach her during that sacred short time that we had every day to work on things? And so I started creating activity packs, but they weren't just regular fun things that we kind of put through together. They were really focused on my kindergarten readiness checklist. So I came up with 7 domains that I think are pretty holistic for children who are entering kindergarten and what they need to know before they start. So their 7 domains are literacy, math, cognition, language, social emotional as one, physical, which includes fine and gross motor skills, and self-help, which is really that independence piece. So I kind of made a checklist and I went through each of the domains thinking, okay, do they need to know their ABCs? Do they need to know certain math skills like counting and patterns, sorting, things like that? What cognition skills, right? What mental skills do they need to have? What do they need to be able to look at the board and perhaps copy off the board? They're like simple things that perhaps parents are not aware of yet. And oftentimes even teachers may have some difficulty expressing the simple things, simple tasks that children need to be able to do when they come into kindergarten. What language skills do they need to have? Can they communicate? What if they don't communicate? How can you handle that as a parent? How can you help your child? With social emotional, there's a lot of things. I mean, this is a big one, just like self help, right? They need to be able to open and close containers, zip up their pants and they go use the restroom, like simple things, grasping a pencil. And then also the physical part is very important too, because that walking, like I said, pencil grip, just being able to, well, I'm going back to social emotional because I'm thinking of them sharing and communicating and the conflict resolution and all of these things are so important. So I made a checklist and I kind of thought of each of the tasks that can help parents. And I wrote them down. And I also have in that kinder readiness checklist, I also have strategies for parents. And they're just real quick, like actionable steps that you can do right now. They're just 2 or 3 quick ideas for parents that doesn't require anything at all. I mean, if you have to use materials, it's using things you already use at home. You don't have to go and make that $100 Amazon order or go to the Dollar Tree and stock up on everything that they have. It's not necessary. We already have these things at home. So just using them wisely and knowing how to use them is going to make all the difference in the world when you're getting your kids ready for kindergarten.
I can't believe that resource is free. That is so generous of you to offer that to parents. So I'm definitely going to link that down below. I love how holistic it is. I know for our state, when I look up the preschool standards for our state, they are absolutely all of those domains that you just mentioned. It is not just literacy and math, it is so much more. And so I think it's really important that parents understand that when they're working with their child at home.
Yeah, thanks. My favorite part about it isn't even all of the tasks or the checklist itself. Even though you can sort all of the areas in which, like, okay, my child has mastered this one, this one, this one, they still need to work on these two, or they haven't mastered these at all. And it's not even the strategies either. It's that at the end, there's like a reflection part where you are asked to reflect yourself, like, okay, what are the 3 to 5 domains or skills my child needs to work on right now? And there's more questions, right? Like, what else, what doesn't need to be prioritized now, but I definitely want them working on later. Let's create a quick plan, right? For right now, these are the 2 skills I'm going to work on. In the next 3 months, I'm going to work on these 2. In the next 6 months, these are going to be the ones that are mastered. And then we'll go ahead, we'll do it again, and we'll reevaluate. So you're constantly on top of it and you're getting them as ready as possible so that when they get in there, they don't just survive, they thrive. And that's what we want as parents.
That's what we all want. Absolutely. And that is what you help parents do through your podcast. You have a show called Preschool Made Easy. So I would love to hear how that podcast helps preschool parents and teachers.
Yeah, so very proud. Once you get a podcast up and running, it's like, yes,
Yes.
this is the most fun part of my job. I love it. It's so exciting. So my podcast is, like you said, it's called Preschool Made Easy. I help busy toddler and preschool parents and teachers. So there's a parent corner segment. I have 1 to 2 episodes every month that is just for parents. And then the rest of the episodes are geared towards teachers. But a lot of my content really helps both audiences because this is the preschool world, right? Sometimes I give you a perspective of one over the other. And then other times I just kind of put out episodes that really help with all the things, right? Behavior management, like growing their independence skills. And a lot of episodes are also seasonal, right? So, okay, here's the summer, here's what we're working on. Here is wintertime. How can you navigate all the chaos that's coming? So,
Well,
yes.
I love listening. I listen every week because I think your podcast, it's so actionable, which I think is helpful and just very relatable. Parents are going to love it.
Thanks. We try to make it fun.
Yes.
Love yours too.
Well, as we are wrapping up our time together, what would be the biggest takeaway that you hope listeners get from this episode?
I hope parents and teachers or anyone listening just feel supported. I hope you know that there are people cheering you on and rooting for you and that everything's going to be great. Just do your best and give yourself all the grace. And we love you. We are here to support you no matter what you're going through. Chances are we've been there too.
Yes, all the grace, all the support, and that is what we want to give to parents and teachers. Okay, well, as we are wrapping up, this is called the Littles Love Learning Podcast. So I would love to know, what do you love most about working with littles?
I love seeing the aha moments when they learn something new, the glitter in their eyes, because they really do have it. And it's exciting. And I think you only really get that with working with littles. So it's my
You
favorite part.
do, especially this preschool and kindergarten age where they're learning so much about the world around them and things are clicking. And all
Yeah,
of a sudden, you can see it in their eyes. It is pretty amazing.
I
Well,
love it.
Shanty, this has been so much fun. You're so much fun to talk to. I love following you online. Please let everyone know where they can connect with you online and how they can continue working with you.
Yes, thank you. Likewise. So you can check out my podcast. I'm on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, all the works. That's Preschool Made Easy. On Instagram, I am shanty.macias. And then my website is pretty much my name, shantymacias.com. So yeah, this has
And
been so much fun. Thanks so
so
much,
much
Erin.
fun. Thank you. I will link to all of that below and I will make sure that everyone gets your free kindergarten readiness checklist. And I can't wait to see what comes from your business this year now that you're going to be home instead of in the classroom full time. I know that we are going to be seeing a lot of new fun things coming from your business.
Thanks so much. Likewise, I'm so excited.